The stars in the night sky twinkled brightly as Earth's people went about their daily lives. No one had any idea that in the dark reaches of space, an enormous fleet was silently heading towards their world. The Galactic Empire, known for its ruthless conquests, had set its eyes on Earth. For them, it was just another planet to take over, a world to add to their growing empire. On Earth, things were much more peaceful. People woke up each day, went to work, and enjoyed life as usual. Governments around the world had no reason to believe that their peaceful existence could be threatened, but they were about to be proven wrong. It all started on a calm afternoon. The first sign of danger came from Earth's satellites, which suddenly detected an unusually large fleet of ships entering the solar system. These weren't just small ships or trade vessels. These were massive warships, the kind designed to dominate entire planets. The news spread quickly, and panic began to take hold of many governments. At first, people thought it was some sort of mistake, maybe a miscalculation in space traffic. But it wasn't. The ships were real, and they were heading straight for Earth. The military scrambled into action, sending jets into the skies and alerting space stations in orbit. The fleet of ships was unlike anything Earth had ever seen before. They looked sleek, cold, and powerful, clearly advanced beyond human technology. At the head of this fleet was Emperor Zarnuk, a leader who had conquered countless planets across the galaxy. Known for his cruel methods, Zarnuk was not interested in negotiation. He was only interested in expanding his empire, and Earth was next on his list. His first message was sent directly to Earth's leaders. The voice that came through the communication channels was calm, yet filled with power. "Surrender now, or face total destruction," Emperor Zarnuk's voice boomed across the planet. "You are weak, and we are the rulers of the galaxy. This will be your only warning." The world went silent as the message echoed. People stared at their screens, not fully understanding what had just happened. Earth had been attacked, not by aliens from far-off corners of the world, but by a galactic empire. Governments around the globe began to react immediately. They called emergency meetings, military commanders gathered in secret rooms, and leaders debated what to do next. Everyone knew that the Empire's forces were far superior. Their technology was beyond anything Earth had ever developed, and they had the numbers to overwhelm any resistance. But amidst the fear and panic, there was a voice of calm. General Alexis Carter, a decorated military strategist, stood in a crowded war room in Washington, D.C. She had seen her share of battles, and she knew that this wasn't the time to back down. "We can't let them think we're weak," General Carter said firmly, her voice steady as she looked around at the leaders of Earth's military forces. "If we show them we're afraid, they will destroy us without hesitation. We have to fight back." Her words stirred something inside everyone in the room. It was true. Humanity had faced challenges before: wars, natural disasters, and moments of despair, but they had always found a way to survive. This time, it would be no different. "We don't have the power to fight them head-on, but we have something they don't," General Carter continued, a determined look on her face. "We have our ability to adapt, to outthink them. They may have superior technology, but we have our wits and our willpower." The room fell silent as her words settled in. The leaders knew she was right. There was a reason humanity had survived for so long, even in the harshest of conditions. It wasn't because of strength or size. It was because of human ingenuity. It was because humans never gave up. "We'll fight them on our terms," General Carter said, her voice strong. "We'll show them that Earth is not a world they can simply take." Across the planet, people were beginning to prepare. Ordinary citizens and soldiers alike braced themselves for what was to come. As the Empire's ships drew closer, they had no idea what Earth's defense would look like. But one thing was certain: humanity was not going to surrender without a fight. The Galactic Empire thought they could just sweep across the stars and take whatever they wanted. But Earth was different. It wasn't just another planet to be conquered. It was a world that would not bow easily. And with that thought, The countdown to humanity's first stand against the Galactic Empire began. As the enormous fleet of the Galactic Empire continued its approach to Earth, the planet's leaders faced an unimaginable challenge. General Alexis Carter stood in the war room, staring at the large holographic map of Earth's defenses. The countdown was ticking, and time was running out. The message from Emperor Zarnak had been clear: surrender or face destruction. But General Carter knew that surrender was never an option. "We can't fight them with strength," she said, her voice steady despite the overwhelming odds. "They have far more firepower than we do. But we have something better: our minds and our ability to think outside the box." Her words echoed around the room. The generals and military leaders who had spent their lives preparing for war were faced with a new kind of battle, a battle of wits and strategy. This wasn't just about weapons and soldiers. It was about using humanity's greatest strengths to outsmart an advanced empire. General Carter quickly assembled a team of experts, engineers, scientists, and strategists from all over the world. They worked around the clock, brainstorming ways to protect Earth and strike back against the Empire. The team understood that if they were going to survive, they had to be clever and unpredictable. One of the key ideas came from Dr. Evan Marks, a brilliant scientist. "We have reverse-engineered alien technology from the previous encounters with space invaders," he explained. "If we can combine this tech with our own, we might be able to create weapons that can disrupt their fleet." It wasn't perfect, but it was their best shot. Earth's military forces began working on creating a network of advanced drones, satellites, and electromagnetic weapons. These would not be able to stop the entire empire, but they could give humanity a fighting chance. They would use hit-and-run tactics, moving fast and striking unexpectedly, making it difficult for the empire to track and destroy them. Meanwhile, in the skies above Earth, the first wave of the Galactic Empire's fleet entered Earth's orbit. They had arrived. Massive ships with weapons that could obliterate entire cities hovered above the planet, casting long shadows over the land. The Empire's fleet was ready to begin its invasion, and it was clear that they were not here for diplomacy. They were here to conquer. Back on Earth, General Carter and her team weren't sitting idly by. "It's time," she said, looking at the holographic display of the Empire's fleet. "Let's show them what Earth is made of." In every major city across the planet, the military forces began their preparations. Fighter jets took to the skies, and small groups of soldiers and civilians began to coordinate from hidden bunkers. In the midst of all this, there was an air of calm determination. Earth's people might be facing the greatest threat they had ever known, but they weren't going to go down without a fight. One of the first moves was to launch a series of satellites equipped with EMP, electromagnetic pulse, technology. The plan was simple: disable the Empire's ships just enough to confuse their systems and make it harder for them to target Earth's forces. It was a risky move, and the chances of success were slim, but it was the only option they had. On the surface, the people of Earth didn't know what was happening. They had no idea the military was already preparing for war. They went about their daily lives, unaware that in the skies above, a battle of epic proportions was about to unfold. At the same time, a team of hackers, led by a young woman named Sarah Lee, was working to breach the Empire's communication networks. Their goal was to send a message to the Galactic Empire that would make it clear Earth was not going to submit. Sarah was one of the best hackers in the world, and she knew this was her moment to show the Empire that humans were not to be underestimated. As the Empire's ships prepared to unleash their first wave of attacks, Sarah managed to hack into their systems. Using Earth's own technology, she broadcasted a message directly to the Empire's fleet. "This is Earth. You have one chance to leave. Surrendering is not an option for us. We will fight until the end." The message was brief but powerful. It was a warning, a sign that Earth was prepared to defend itself. General Carter watched as the Empire's fleet began to move closer, but she knew that the first step had been taken. Humanity had already made its stand. They had shown that they would not bow to anyone, even an empire as powerful as this one. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and the fate of the planet rested on the shoulders of those who were willing to fight for it. The Galactic Empire might have underestimated Earth, but they were about to find out just how wrong they were. Humanity had a fire within them, and it was a fire that could not be easily extinguished. The war had started, but this was only the beginning. The tension in Earth's military command centers was palpable. General Alexis Carter stood by the large holographic map, watching as the ships of the Galactic Empire loomed closer. The warning had been sent, and now, the time to act had arrived. Earth's military forces were ready, at least as ready as they could be against an empire far superior in technology. The first part of their plan had worked. The satellites had successfully scrambled some of the Empire's communications, causing confusion within their fleet. But that was only the beginning. It wasn't enough to simply disrupt their systems for a few moments. Earth needed to hit them hard. General Carter turned to her team of officers, her face set in a determined expression. "It's time for the first strike. We'll use the drones. They're small, fast, and can strike before the Empire realizes what's happening." The drones had been quickly developed using a combination of reverse-engineered alien technology and Earth's own advancements. They weren't powerful enough to destroy the Empire's ships, but they could damage key systems and distract their forces long enough for Earth's soldiers to make a move. The drones, equipped with electromagnetic disruptors, were launched from various military bases around the world. As they ascended into the atmosphere, they moved with speed and precision. Each drone was programmed with a specific target, the Empire's larger ships and their weapon systems. Across the skies, the drones began their high-speed approach. They didn't wait for an invitation. They didn't care that they were outgunned. They were a symbol of humanity's defiance. The Empire's ships, which had been carefully positioning themselves over Earth's major cities, began to pick up the incoming drones on their scanners. But the drones were small, and they moved in unpredictable patterns. The Empire's fleets weren't built to deal with such nimble threats. The drones reached their targets and detonated their disruptors. For a brief moment, chaos erupted within the Empire's fleet. Several ships lost power, and their shields flickered as their internal systems were temporarily disabled. It was exactly what General Carter had hoped for. The Galactic Empire's fleet was thrown into disarray, but the success was short-lived. Within moments, the Empire's ships recovered. Their advanced technology kicked back in, and they quickly re-established control. The Empire's fleet, although temporarily stunned, was not defeated. In fact, they were angry. Commander Xylar, the captain of one of the Empire's largest warships, looked out from his command deck. He was furious. "How dare they attack us? We will show them the consequences of their foolishness." Xylar's ship, the Vortex, was one of the most formidable in the fleet. It was equipped with advanced weaponry that could level entire cities in seconds. He immediately gave the order to retaliate. "Fire the plasma cannons. Target their major cities. Show them who holds the power." As the Empire's warships began to power up their weapons, General Carter watched anxiously. She knew that the drone strike had only been a distraction. It had not been enough to stop the full might of the Empire. If Earth didn't act fast, cities like New York, London, and Tokyo would soon be reduced to rubble. "We need to move now," General Carter said, urgency in her voice. "Prepare the Air Force. We need to hit them while they're distracted." Thousands of fighter jets were scrambled from bases across the planet. They shot into the sky, flying at full speed towards the Empire's ships. The jets were outfitted with the best weapons Earth could muster, but they were still no match for the Empire's advanced technology. They could only hope that the element of surprise would give them an edge. The Air Force jets quickly reached the outermost edge of the Empire's fleet. They fired missiles, hoping to damage the warships before they could retaliate. The explosions rocked the Empire's ships, causing another moment of confusion. But just as the Earth jets began their evasive maneuvers, the Empire's shields flared to life, absorbing most of the missile's impacts. A few jets were shot down, but the rest managed to escape the enemy fire. Earth's Air Force wasn't finished yet. They had a plan for this. "We need to keep them busy," General Carter said. "We need more time. Keep attacking, even if it's just a distraction." The battle in the skies continued. Earth's jets, though outmatched, fought with everything they had. They were determined to protect their homes and families. Each missile, each explosion, was a message to the Empire. Earth would not surrender. Back on the ground, Sarah Lee, the hacker who had previously sent the warning to the Empire, worked tirelessly in a hidden command center. Her job was far from over. She was hacking into the Empire's communication systems again, trying to disrupt their coordination. The more chaos she could cause, the better chance Earth had to defend itself. As Sarah typed furiously, a new message popped up on her screen. It was from General Carter. "We need you to try something big. We need to disrupt their weapons systems completely. Can you do it?" Sarah took a deep breath. "I'll do my best," she said, determined. She knew this was Earth's best chance, and she wasn't going to let them down. Across the planet, Earth's forces were pushing forward with everything they had. The battle had only just begun, but the fight for Earth's survival was well underway. They had proven they could strike first. Now they had to show the Galactic Empire that Earth would never back down. The war had started, but humanity had only just begun to fight back. The battle in the skies above Earth was far from over. While the jets of Earth's Air Force continued to harass the Empire's ships, General Alexis Carter knew that it wouldn't be enough. They were outmatched in terms of firepower, and the Empire was beginning to regroup. The momentary confusion caused by Earth's drones and fighter jets had passed, and now it was only a matter of time before the Empire unleashed its full power. "Prepare for the next phase," General Carter ordered, her voice calm despite the chaos unfolding around her. "We're not done yet." Her team had worked tirelessly to develop one last weapon, a plan that could potentially turn the tide. It wasn't perfect, but it was humanity's best shot at making the Empire take notice. The weapon was still in the early stages of development, and it wasn't quite as powerful as anything the Empire had, but it was something different, something unexpected. The plan was simple. They would combine Earth's most advanced technology with the alien systems they had managed to reverse engineer. The goal was to create an energy pulse strong enough to temporarily disable the Empire's fleet and give Earth's forces an advantage, just long enough to create a window of opportunity. It was a long shot, but it was the only option they had left. Across the planet, teams of scientists and engineers were working around the clock to finish the pulse weapon. In hidden underground bunkers, they connected massive generators to the weapon's core, hoping the energy would be enough to overpower the Empire's shields. But time was running out. The Empire's ships were closing in, and they would soon begin their full-scale assault on Earth's cities. Meanwhile, Sarah Lee, the skilled hacker who had caused so much disruption already, was still working on sabotaging the Empire's communication systems. She had managed to interfere with their battle tactics, causing confusion among their ranks, but she knew it was only a temporary setback. The Empire was too advanced for such tactics to work for long. Sarah sat in front of multiple screens, her fingers flying over the keyboard. She could see the Empire's ships preparing their weapons, their plasma cannons charging. They would begin their assault soon. But Sarah had one more trick up her sleeve. With every ounce of her concentration, she worked to bypass the Empire's most secure systems. She wasn't sure if she could completely disable their weapons, but if she could just delay the attack, it might be enough to give Earth's forces a fighting chance. The atmosphere in the war room was tense. Everyone knew that this next move could be their last chance. General Carter watched the holographic display as the Empire's ships began to power up their weapons. The first round of plasma cannons fired, targeting the largest cities on Earth. "Here they come," General Carter said grimly. "Brace yourselves." The plasma cannons shot toward Earth, their energy beams lighting up the sky. In seconds, the first blast would reach its target, London. But as the deadly beams surged toward the city, something unexpected happened. Just as the energy pulse was about to hit, Earth's new weapon activated. A burst of blue light filled the sky as the pulse shot out from the hidden generators on the ground. The energy wave rippled across the atmosphere, striking the Empire's fleet with incredible force. The result was immediate. The plasma cannon aimed at London flickered and sputtered before shutting down completely. The energy pulse had temporarily overloaded the Empire's shields and weapon systems. For a brief moment, Earth's military forces had an advantage. The Empire's ships were stunned, their weapons disabled, and their communications scrambled. It was a small victory, but it was enough to give General Carter and her team hope. "We've got them," Carter said, her voice filled with a mix of relief and determination. "Attack now, while they're vulnerable." The Air Force jets, which had been flying in tight formation, dove in toward the Empire's warships. The fighters, now equipped with upgraded missile systems, fired their payloads at the enemy ships. Several of the Empire's ships took direct hits, and the massive vessels began to smoke and spark as their systems failed one by one. The tide was turning, but it was far from over. The Empire's ships were beginning to recover, their shields flickering back to life. They were not completely disabled, and they would soon regain control. Earth's forces had only a small window of opportunity, and they had to make every second count. As the battle raged above, the citizens of Earth watched in awe. News broadcasts were filled with images of Earth's military fighting back against the seemingly invincible Empire. People all over the world gathered to watch, their hearts filled with hope. Humanity, united in the face of annihilation, was proving that they were not so easily defeated. In the war room, General Carter's team pressed forward, giving it everything they had. They knew that the Empire would retaliate soon, and they would need to be ready. Earth's military forces weren't the best in the galaxy, but they had something the Empire didn't: the will to survive, to protect their home, and the ingenuity to fight back even against impossible odds. The pulse weapon had given them a fighting chance, but it was only one battle in a much larger war. The Galactic Empire wasn't going to give up so easily. Earth would have to keep fighting, keep adapting, and keep proving that, no matter how powerful the Empire was, humanity would never give in. As the first battle of this war drew to a close, one thing was clear: Earth wasn't going down without a fight. The initial success of Earth's counterattack had filled General Alexis Carter and her team with a renewed sense of hope. The energy pulse had been a game-changer, allowing Earth's forces to momentarily disrupt the Galactic Empire's power. But the relief was short-lived. The Empire's warships were slowly regaining their strength, and their retaliation was coming fast. As the general looked at the holographic map of the battlefront, she could see the Empire's fleet beginning to reposition. The dark ships, once thrown into disarray, were now regrouping. They were angry and prepared to unleash everything they had to wipe Earth off the map. "Brace yourselves," Carter said, her voice steady despite the tension. "They won't go down without a fight." On the surface, the world's military forces were preparing for the worst. Earth's Air Force, now with a slight advantage, flew at full speed toward the enemy ships. Fighter jets zigzagged in the sky, attempting to dodge the plasma blasts that the Empire's ships were now firing at full force. The battle in the sky had turned into a deadly dance of missiles, lasers, and smoke. In the war room, Sarah Lee, the hacker who had played a pivotal role in disrupting the Empire's communication systems, worked with even more urgency. She had been hacking into the Empire's systems for hours, causing confusion, delaying their attacks, and even temporarily disabling their communications. But as the Empire's ships began to recover, her job was becoming more difficult. Come on," Sarah muttered under her breath, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "There's got to be something more I can do." She watched the Empire's ships steadily regain their positions. The massive vessels fired at Earth's fighter jets, taking out several of them, in one swift motion. It was clear that the Galactic Empire wasn't planning to go easy on Earth. Sarah's eyes widened as she saw the next message pop up on her screen. The Empire's fleet was preparing for an all-out assault. They were going to target Earth's cities directly. New York, Tokyo, Paris, cities that had already been weakened by the earlier attacks. This time, there would be no stopping them unless Sarah could do something drastic. Back in the skies, General Carter watched helplessly as the Empire's warships began to fire upon Earth's major cities. The air was filled with smoke, and the Earth shook as the Empire's weapons hit their targets. "This is it," General Carter said to herself, gritting her teeth. "We have to make them pay for every single shot they take." The general's voice echoed through the command room. "Prepare the final strike. We can't let them take another city." While Sarah continued to work on sabotaging the Empire systems, Earth's military forces had one last chance to make an impact. Earth's final weapon, the pulse cannon, was still under construction. It wasn't ready for full-scale combat, but they could use it now to push back the Empire for a little longer. The pulse cannon was Earth's last line of defense, but the pressure was on to finish it in time. Across the globe, engineers were rushing to complete the weapon. The pulse cannon was a massive device, built to release an energy pulse strong enough to disrupt the Empire's technology for a much longer period. It was a risky move. If it failed, Earth would have no other option but to retreat and hope for a miracle. But if it succeeded, they would have a chance to strike the Empire back hard. The pulse cannon was located in a remote military base, built deep underground for protection. Earth's soldiers knew that if the pulse cannon worked, it could give humanity the advantage they needed to push the Empire back. But the journey to the base was long, and the Empire's forces were closing in quickly. General Carter gave the order to begin the attack. The final wave of fighter jets, armed with the best weapons Earth had, soared toward the Empire's flagship. The Vortex, a massive ship that had led the Empire's attack, was their target. As the jets approached, they unleashed everything they had: rockets, laser beams, and EMP pulses. But the Empire's shields were stronger than anything Earth had ever seen. The missiles seemed to be absorbed before they could make an impact. The jets were taking heavy fire, with several being shot down in rapid succession. "We can't keep this up," one of the officers shouted. "They're too strong." But General Carter wasn't ready to give up. She knew that the Empire was ruthless, but they underestimated something about Earth: its people. They were determined. They wouldn't back down. "They may have the power," Carter said, her eyes narrowing. "But we have something they don't: the will to keep fighting, and we're going to keep fighting until the very end." In the control room, Sarah Lee's efforts finally paid off. With one last surge of hacking, she gained access to the Empire's main communication system. She sent a message to every single warship in their fleet, a message that would disrupt their coordination once more. It wasn't enough to disable them completely, but it would create another opening. "I did it," Sarah whispered, relieved but exhausted. "Now it's up to you, General." Carter gave a silent nod. She knew they had one last chance. The pulse cannon was ready. All across Earth, people stood united, waiting. The fate of the planet rested on the next few minutes. Earth's forces, no longer holding back, launched the final strike. And the battle for Earth continued. The war had reached a boiling point. The Empire's ships were massive, their technology far superior to anything Earth had ever seen. Yet humanity was still standing. Against all odds, the people of Earth had managed to delay the inevitable, buying themselves time with the pulse cannon and Sarah Lee's brilliant hacking efforts. But time was running out, and they knew it. General Alexis Carter stood at the front of the command room, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the Empire's ships closing in on Earth's last line of defense. The pulse cannon was their best shot, but even with the weapon in place, the odds seemed stacked against them. "We don't have much time," Carter said, her voice resolute. "The Empire will make their final push within the next hour. We need to make sure the pulse cannon works or it's all over. Across the globe, military personnel worked together in a synchronized effort. Every soldier knew the stakes. They were all fighting for their homes, their families, their future. There was no turning back. Earth's military had been pushed to its limits, but they still had one thing that the Empire couldn't replicate: heart. In an underground base, located deep within a remote mountain range, Earth's engineers were giving everything they had to ensure the pulse cannon was ready. The enormous weapon had been hastily built, but was powered by a combination of cutting-edge technology and stolen alien tech. It was humanity's final hope. Sarah Lee, still in the war room, was exhausted but determined. She had spent countless hours hacking into the Empire's systems, causing distractions and delays whenever she could. But now, there was nothing left to do except wait. She knew the pulse cannon needed to fire at the right moment, at the right target, or the Empire would finish what they started. "They're coming," Sarah said quietly to herself as she scanned the incoming data on her screens. "The Empire's fleet is almost in range. I just need to buy us a few more seconds." Outside, the sky was dark with the silhouette of the Empire's ships. They loomed ominously over Earth, their weapons primed and ready. From every corner of the globe, people could see the ships overhead, and fear began to spread. But amid that fear, there was also resolve. Humanity was not going to surrender. In cities and towns around the world, civilians watched anxiously, waiting for the moment that would decide the fate of the planet. Soldiers, pilots, and hackers like Sarah had already done everything they could. Now, it was up to the pulse cannon. Back at the military base, technicians checked the final systems. The pulse cannon, built into the very core of the mountain, was connected to a series of massive generators. The energy inside the device was building to a powerful crescendo, ready to unleash its wave of electromagnetic energy. The countdown began. In the war room, General Carter's team held their breath. They had one chance at this, one shot. 15 seconds, a technician called out, his voice steady despite the growing tension. "We're locked in, ready to fire." Sarah watched the clock. She had spent days working to make sure this moment would come, and now she could only hope that the pulse cannon would be enough to turn the tide. 5 seconds, the technician said, his voice now louder, more urgent. The air in the command room was thick with anticipation. Everyone's eyes were glued to the screens in front of them, watching the clock tick down. The Empire's ships were still closing in, and the pulse cannon was the only weapon left that could stop them. "Now," Carter shouted. With a flash of blue light, the pulse cannon fired. The energy pulse shot into the sky, a massive wave of electromagnetic energy that spread across the atmosphere, targeting the Empire's fleet. The beam shot toward the approaching warships, faster than the eye could follow. It was humanity's last chance, and everyone on Earth held their breath as they watched it unfold. The first Empire ship was hit, its shields flickering as the energy pulse struck it with full force. The ship staggered in the air, its systems momentarily overloaded. One by one, the other ships in the fleet were hit. Some of them fired wildly, but their weapons malfunctioned as their technology was affected by the pulse. The effect was immediate. Earth's forces took advantage of the momentary disruption, launching a massive counterattack. Fighter jets, armed with newly developed weapons, dove into the fray, firing missiles and lasers at the Empire's weakened ships. The Empire's fleet, once so powerful, was now vulnerable. "We've got them," one of the pilots shouted into his radio as he took down another enemy ship. "They're retreating." But General Carter knew it wasn't over yet. The Empire would regroup, and they would come back stronger. Earth's forces had gained the upper hand, but the war was far from finished. As the battle continued, humanity's resolve held firm. The Empire might have had the power, but Earth had something they could never replicate: unity, courage, and a will to fight for their home. The pulse cannon had bought them time, but it would take more than just one weapon to win this war. "We've won this battle," Carter said, her eyes never leaving the screen. But the fight is far from over. Let's get ready for the next phase. The Empire was still out there, and Earth would be ready. The battle was far from over. Despite the unexpected success of the pulse cannon, Earth's military knew the Empire wouldn't give up so easily. The fleet had retreated temporarily, but their warships were powerful, and they had advanced technology that Earth couldn't fully understand yet. The question on everyone's mind was whether humanity could hold on long enough to win the war. General Alexis Carter stood at the command center, scanning the data on her screen. The Empire's ships had fallen back, but only to regroup. The global forces had been given a chance to recover, but they had to act quickly before the Empire launched another attack. The next strike could very well decide the fate of Earth. "We don't have much time," Carter said to her team. "We need to launch a coordinated strike now. We got them on the ropes, but we can't wait for them to regroup." She turned to Sarah Lee, who had been tirelessly working in the war room, scanning enemy signals and trying to stay one step ahead of the Empire. "Sarah, what's the situation?" Sarah was exhausted but focused. "They're communicating, but the signal is fragmented. I can only catch bits and pieces, but I think they're preparing for a counterattack. We need to act fast." Outside the command room, the sky was filled with a mix of anxious anticipation and hope. Soldiers, pilots, engineers, and civilians had all played their part in the fight so far. Now they would face the final challenge. The entire planet stood at the edge of victory or defeat. General Carter's voice was steady but filled with urgency as she spoke into the comms. "This is our chance. We have the advantage now, but we have to move fast. Assemble the fleet and get ready to launch the final push." Across the globe, Earth's forces sprang into action. Ships were loaded, weapons were armed, and fighters prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. The military had been working tirelessly on new tactics to overcome the Empire's advanced ships. This was their moment to put everything they had learned into action. Sarah continued to monitor the Empire's signals, her eyes darting across her screens. "They're trying to send reinforcements," she said, "but they're not ready yet. If we strike now, we can catch them before they're fully coordinated." Carter nodded. "That's what I was hoping for." The countdown began. Earth's forces were ready. The pulse cannon had worked wonders before, but now it was time for humanity's finest pilots and soldiers to do their part. As the fleet assembled, fighter jets and advanced warships soared into the sky. The ships from Earth were far smaller than the Empire's massive fleet, but they were fast, agile, and equipped with new weapons designed specifically to exploit the weaknesses Sarah had uncovered in the Empire's technology. The first wave of fighters cut through the atmosphere, their engines roaring as they sped toward the Empire's ships. The alien ships were massive, like looming shadows, but the Earth pilots were fearless. They dove into the enemy ranks, launching missiles and firing lasers with precision. One by one, the Empire's warships began to falter. Some were forced to retreat, while others were disabled completely by the clever tactics Earth's forces had developed. The Empire's fleet wasn't as invincible as they had once seemed. As the battle raged on, Sarah and her team continued their efforts to disrupt the Empire's communication and control systems. With every successful hack, the Empire's ships grew more disoriented. They couldn't move as efficiently, and their coordination started to fall apart. Sarah looked up from her screen and spoke urgently. "They're retreating again. It's working. Keep pushing." General Carter didn't hesitate. "Keep the pressure on. We're not stopping until they're out of here for good." The momentum shifted in humanity's favor. The Empire had underestimated the will of Earth's people, and now, with their forces in disarray, they were losing ground. The pulse cannon had done its part, but now it was Earth's spirit and resilience that were carrying the day. Hours passed, and the battle continued. Every Earth fighter knew they had to give it their all. It wasn't just a fight for survival anymore. It was a fight to protect their homes, their families, and everything they had ever known. Finally, as the last of the Empire's ships fell back into the void of space, General Carter received the confirmation she had been waiting for. "It's over," the communications officer said. "The last of their ships are retreating. Earth's forces have won." A collective cheer erupted in the command room. Everyone had known the risks, but no one had ever doubted that they could fight back. Humanity had faced impossible odds, but they had triumphed. As the dust began to settle, Carter stood still, taking a moment to process what had just happened. It wasn't just the weapons or the technology that had won this fight. It was the spirit of humanity, of people who refused to give up, who had come together despite their differences to face an overwhelming threat. In the weeks that followed, Earth rebuilt. The war had left scars, but it had also brought people together in ways they had never imagined. The message was clear: humanity would not be intimidated. No matter how powerful the enemy, no matter the size of the threat, Earth would always rise to defend its own. And as for the Empire, they had learned one valuable lesson: never underestimate the strength of a planet that will fight for its future.